So good. All right. So it is fifth Sunday testimony. It worked out really well since Alyssa missed that flight, or it got canceled. Today we have where'd Linda go? Oh, there she is. Oh, she's hiding. Today we have the testimony. So fifth Sunday testimony is a day where we have a member come and sort of just share their testimony. So I would like to invite Linda Mikkelsen up, and if everyone can be kind to her and not throw things. She said no booze or anything like that, and I will turn it over to you. I feel like I should be doing some big intro. Yeah, exactly. There we go. Oh, maybe. All right.
Well, as you all know, speaking in public is not really my thing, so you'll forgive me if I'm a little shaky. I grew up in a small suburb of Dayton, Ohio called Kettering, and for the times I had a pretty normal family. I had one dad, one mom, and 3 sisters, and all were loved. Well, okay, maybe not all the sisters all the time, but mostly. Dad worked, Mom worked at home, and the sisters and I did our very best to drive both each other and our parents crazy. Except for Kathy, who was annoyingly perfect. But luckily, she did grow out of that when she went to college, so we were happy for her. As we got older and, wanted to be teenagers and stay in bed on Sunday morning, my parents had a surefire way of getting us to church. The rule was no church on Sunday, no going out the next weekend. It worked really well. Tell you the truth, though, I really liked going to church in Sunday school. I had friends there, and I really felt good after I went to church. I was happy to be there. When I was 14, my family took a trip to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. But before that, I wanted to tell you about the fact that we attended Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. And I was baptized at 7, and I was confirmed at 15. But when I was 14, our family took a trip to Gatlinburg, and I had found my special place in the world. Those Smoky Mountains spoke to me as no place ever had, and it gave me a peace that I had yet to understand. I felt like I could breathe when I was there. Shortly after that first trip, some friends of my family bought a chalet up in the mountains above Gatlinburg, and we were blessed enough to be able to spend 3 or 4 times a year there. The first time I went out on that deck in the morning and sat and stared out over those mountains, I knew why I had found such peace there, because I had found God there. He and I have had many, many conversations in those mountains. Of course, I grew in to be a teen and caused my parents no end of grief, slacked off on my time with God, still attended church, remember the rule, but it just didn't seem as important as it used to be. Until I went back to the mountains, and he always met me there. Time passed, and I married. We were young, we were immature, and we really weren't well suited for each other. We had differing opinions on some of life's most important issues. One of those being religion. He was raised in a Catholic household, I was a Lutheran, and back then, those 2 denominations did not play nice together. And he told me in no uncertain terms that if he participated in a service that was not Catholic, he would go to hell. Now, I wasn't too sure about that, but, he believed it. So we tried going to the Catholic Church. And although it was nice, I never really fit in there. First of all, they wouldn't let me take communion. However, I did sneak up and take it a few times. don't tell anyone, but especially my Catholic friends. But, it just didn't feel right, And he wasn't all that keen on going anyway. So we stopped going to the Catholic Church. And, of course, he would not go to the Lutheran Church. So the kids and I tried a couple of different Lutheran churches. None of them just fit, Then, what happened next? Then the divorce happened. It was an unhealthy relationship, and it needed to end. But it was the end of a dream for me, of what I believed my life would always be. Married, children, happily, that all fell apart. I was angry. I walked as far away from God as I could get. I felt like he had deserted me. I had a counselor that told me one time that I was really good at understanding anger. I wasn't so hot at understanding pain or hurt. And I didn't know how to deal with that. So when I hurt, I lashed out in anger. That anger protected me. It became my shield, and I hid in it. It kept the hurt and pain at bay. It kept me safe. Well, not really. That was only an illusion. It wasn't productive, and it didn't solve anything. It simply kept the daggers of pain away at that moment. I started going out with friends from work on the weekends. The kids were with the ex, and I drank. And I drank way too much. Now, keep in mind, I'm what's known as a cheap date, so 2 drinks for me is like on the floor. I didn't realize it then, but looking back on it now, I know without a shadow of a doubt that although I had walked away from God, he had not walked away from me, because he protected me through that period of my life, and it could have gone so wrong. The first years after the divorce were hard, and then I met Jim. Now, don't get me wrong. First few years, after the nicey nice wears off, we're not a bed of roses. We each had baggage that we brought into the relationship. We argued about things, one of them being religion. As most of you know, Jim at one time was an evangelist for the Church of Christ, but he had recently split with them over scriptural differences. And I was still that kind of mild-mannered Lutheran. Well, no, not really so mild-mannered anymore. I had learned to stand up for myself and for what I believed in. So we argued about that. Shortly after I met him, my daughter became pregnant, and she had an adorable baby boy. He was a joy, and I had him often. Unfortunately, life for her became very difficult, and she fell into drug use. This devastated me, and back then you really didn't talk about it to other people or even to family members. So I was alone. I was scared. I was scared for my daughter. And I was still angry. We all went through hell during that period. That's the only way I can describe it. Drugs, jail, horrible allegations, courts. It broke my heart, and it really broke my spirit. Long story short, eventually that beautiful little boy came to live with me. It was tough. I was older and not used to a little one who runs around with the energy of a 5-year-old. I didn't think I'd ever get any sleep again. But we got through it. He had some issues. He suffered from being away from his mom, even though at the time that was the best thing for him. He also suffered from horrible, horrible allegations made by a woman and a psychologist who was very misguided. But we got through it. And it brought me back to God. I prayed during that time like I've never prayed in my life. And he was there. When he was in the 2nd grade, he came to live with me. And I owned a house here in Auburn, and we decided that we would move out here. And shortly after that, I decided we needed to find a church. We went to several different churches, and nobody spoke to us. It was kind of weird. And then we came to Midway. And we had barely made it into that back pew, which of course you know is where I always sit. When Euleen Knight came up to us and hugged us and welcomed us, and we were hooked. We knew we had found a church family. Pretty sure this is where God wanted us to land. When my grandson was in the 6th grade, he went back to live with his mom. I went on the walk to Emmaus, and Jim went back to church. All 3 of those events had a profound effect on my life. Empty nester again, this time kind of grateful, and I could get some sleep. I helped start Bread of Life as an outreach from Walk to Emmaus, and Jim and I got married. Jim and I now walk together with the Lord, and we feel his presence in our lives every day. My daughter has gotten clean, and she and I are working to rebuild our relationship. But do I still meet God in those mountains? Oh, you bet I do. Every time I can get up there. I am so grateful for those beautiful encounters. And I'm grateful for my Midway family and for my godly husband. I've been on one heck of a journey. Some of it was tough, but I can't wait to see what comes next. Thanks.